I want to talk about my obsession with what some would say drugs. I would say molecules and medicine and spirituality and knowledge, right? Because that's what I'm obsessed with: knowledge, learning, exploring, uh, things like that. So, as simple as I did a dab, and then I smoked, put some wax in my bong, with the weed, with the bong, sandwiched it, smoked some. Um, and I'm way higher than I normally am, and I've only took one dab and one hit out the bong. Um, it had me thinking the THC, the concentrate that I have it's concentrated with THC. And then I'm looking at this plant over here that I'm growing, this clipdagger plant. It's fourth generation. I've been working on trying to make the plant stronger, maybe change it based on its environment and based on the things in the dirt and things like that. But like, I just have this obsession with that. I was talking to my friend today, and I was explaining how we were walking through the woods, and I was explaining how there's like all these plants out here. There's so many plants in the world that humans haven't even researched, like literally any of them. If you look at the percentage of how many plants humans know the molecules of and how many plants humans don't, we know less than like 5% of what is possibly out there. The cure to cancer, the cure to this, the cure to that. There's most likely new psychedelics that we've never really discovered yet. There's most likely plants. Cannabis is a certain plant, and a lot of people, there's the whole synthetic cannabinoids, and it's like drugs is such a broad topic. I'm mainly obsessed with plant psychedelics and plant psychoactive molecules, but I'm also interested in the fact that humans are able to take a molecule from Mother Nature, take some other chemicals from Mother Nature, mix them together, and create a whole new molecule that's never been created before. I think that's insanely beautiful. I think it's art. It's mastery. It's obviously science. It's chemistry, but it's like I just have this obsession with molecules. The fact that they can attach to our brain and they work. Why is it that psilocybin, LSD, why do these things change you for the better? Why does alcohol usually change people for the worse? Alcohol and psilocybin mushrooms, they both are intoxicating, but they're different, obviously, because they attach to completely different receptors. They're completely different molecules. And my thing is, I'm obsessed with the fact that these things work and how they work and why they work and what happens and why is it that if the GABA receptors are firing off, you're not getting a spiritual experience. But if the serotonin receptors are firing off, specifically the 5-HT2A receptors, if those receptors are firing off, then you are getting a spiritual experience. That's weird to me. It's weird that, why is it that if we give somebody methamphetamine, the reaction is it tends to fuck their life up, fuck their mind up, just fuck them up in general, right? But why is it that if we give them methyl dioxymethamphetamine, that you can change their life? You can give them like the most insane therapy session they've ever had. They can, it's beautiful. Why is one not beautiful and one is beautiful, but they have the same base structure? It's just the methyl dioxy is added to the methamphetamine, and then boom, different effect. Different, attaches to different receptors. I think this is the most interesting thing that humans can do. That's why I'm obsessed with drugs. Some people might look at me like a drug addict. I say most drug addicts don't even know the receptor of the drug that they're using attaches to. So no, like a drug addict has no clue what the fuck they're doing. That's why they're drug addicts. But drug education prevents people from being drug addicts because if you know what receptor the drug attaches to, then you know whether to be careful or not. If it attaches to the opioid receptors, you need to be careful. I don't give a fuck what it is. Kratom, heroin, morphine, the poppy plant, fucking akawama seeds. There's many plants that attach to the opioid receptors. All of them are addictive. All of them have the same type addiction, some more severe than others. I find that very interesting too, and it's usually because of the way they attach the receptor. Some attach to the receptor and slide in so easily. Others are so big that it's hard for them to slide in as easily, but yet they still attach to the receptor. Like LSD, for example. The reason why LSD lasts longer than psilocybin mushrooms is because the LSD molecule is bigger than the psilocybin mushroom molecule. Therefore, it basically gets jammed inside of our receptor until the receptor figures out a way to get rid of it, which is 8 to 12 hours after you've taken it. But because psilocin is almost identical to serotonin, like almost identical to serotonin, the body knows how to get rid of it much quicker because it deals with serotonin every single day, right? Our body doesn't deal with a molecule that looks like LSD every day. Yeah, they can say that LSD looks similar to serotonin. No, it's LSD has the serotonin, and LSD looks more similar to an aporphine alkaloid than it does to the serotonin, molecule. But because it's bigger, it gets jammed, and that's why it lasts longer. And I just think it's just so fucking interesting to me because Ormus, right? Ormus is monoatomic gold. So gold, like the rock, yellow rock gold, if you break it down, because it's a rock, and all a rock is you have a bunch of mineral atoms clumped together. So you have a bunch of gold atoms clumped together to make a gold rock, right? Separate those atoms where they're no longer clumped together, and you have monoatomic gold, which is also called Ormus. If you ingest Ormus, it has reactions similar to a drug. So I find it interesting that even minerals like gold and minerals like platinum, I find it interesting that these things have drug reactions in the body. And gold, and monoatomic gold has a spiritual reaction in the body. I have no clue what receptors it attaches to. I have no clue how Ormus works. But all I know is I've taken it enough times to know that it works. There's just so many different things that I've used, and I'm just so into figuring out what works for me, right? Because what I originally was doing was trying to find the plants that I connected to the most. Because the reason why I like plants over drugs is because plants contain drugs, but they are not drugs. Just like your human brain contains drugs, but that does not mean that you are a drug. You contain DMT, dopamine, norepinephrine, all these other fucking things in your body, all these other drugs that we call body hormones, which is just a distraction word from the word drug. But I think our body contains drugs. Plants contain drugs, but these are not drugs themselves. Now, when I ingest cannabis, I'm ingesting THC, CBD, all the different terpenes and cannabinoids that are in the plant. Um, if I ingest Clipdagger, I'm ingesting, the leonorine, or if I ingest motherwort, I'm ingesting the stachygen and the leonorine and all the other terpenes and flavonoids and alkaloids and things that are in the plant. But when it comes to a plant, this is my personal belief. I personally believe that plants have a soul. So because plants have a soul, there's something in the plant that is not in the molecules. So because there's something in the plant that's not in the molecules, you're gaining more information from the plant than you would if you were to extract the drugs from the plant, right? Or you can extract what some would say the soul of the plant using alcohol, because the Native Americans believe that alcohol was a soul extractor. It extracts your soul. Like if you drink an alcohol with no plant inside of it, it'll suck your soul dry. if you're, but if you put a crushed up dry plant inside of alcohol, it'll suck the soul out of that plant. And you can either drink that alcohol or evaporate the alcohol away, and you have a plant extract, right? And that plant extract is the effects and soul of the plant without ingesting the plant. See, all of this is interesting to me because Native Americans knew about this hundreds of years ago. They knew how to make extracts. They knew how to boil a plant to the point where the tea becomes a dry powder, and they would be able to like sniff the powder if they wanted because it works through the cell membranes in the nose. They were able to make extracts using alcohol. They were able to like they were able to extract the 5-MeO DMT from the back of the frog's back. Like all these different substances. Why does a frog create DMT out of its back as a poison, basically? Like, why is there a sponge in the ocean, like, one of those organism sponges in the ocean, that contain 5-bromo? I'm pretty sure it's called 5-bromo DMT, which is like one of the first ocean or water psychedelics, basically. It's like the water lily. Why does the water lily produce, all these the porphyrin alkaloids in it? And some would say that these secondary compounds were made as a defense mechanism to make animals not eat them. And yeah, maybe. But I think that plants are smarter than that. I think that their consciousness is inside of these molecules. I think that it's more like it's part of them, right? It's not just that it's a defense mechanism. It's more like it's also their consciousness. It's part of their consciousness itself. Just like your brain produces DMT, dopamine, serotonin. Without serotonin, you will never be able to feel happiness. The reason why happiness exists, the reason why sadness exists, the reason why emotions exist is because your body produces drugs that creates these emotions. So therefore, if you did not have drugs in your body, you would not exist. You would not be you. You would be a fucking vegetable. You would be nothing. You wouldn't be able to think. You wouldn't be able to feel. You wouldn't be able to create. You wouldn't be able to imagine. You wouldn't be able to do anything without those drugs that your brain produces to create the 3D reality that we are perceiving right now. I'm just saying that this is what interests me in life. Like, I'm so obsessed with this shit, right? That just drugs. Because it's all drugs. You are drugs. You do not work without drugs. When people say, I don't do drugs, I laugh in my head. Because if you didn't do drugs, you would be dead. You do drugs, your heart's beating, your heart produces oxytocin, which is, when you fall in love, if you did a brain scan, blood scan, whatever you need to do to scan your blood system, you would have a high amount of oxytocin as you're falling in love. Why? Because your heart produces a drug that makes you feel this emotion that we call love, right? Everything is drugs. We alter our happiness with drugs. We alter our consciousness with drugs. I think it's amazing that I can alter my consciousness to many different aspects, and all those different aspects are still me, though, right? Like, if I take LSD, it's still me. If I take DMT, even though I'm not here anymore, it's still me, right? If I smoke cannabis, it's still me. If I take kratom, it's still me. but it's a different part of me. Like, these drugs allow you to access different parts of your consciousness. You get to open certain doors with certain molecules, and it's just I think the most interesting thing to me is finding out that drugs don't necessarily have an effect. It's that the drugs attach to your receptor and make your body release different things at certain times that it already has, which means that you are the drug. The, that means that the receptors in your brain, all this shit only works because you're a drug. You are drugs. You are the drugs you're getting high from. You're getting high off of you, off of your brain, your consciousness. If your brain didn't have the ability to produce glutamate and, there's, when a molecule has calcium channel blocking, that causes effects, or if it attaches to the NMDA receptors, that has a certain effect, like DXM, PCP, ketamine, they all attach to the NMDA receptors. And it's like, I just think all of this, and they have a certain effect. The tryptamines all attach to a certain receptor, and they all have a similar effect. The opioids all attach to a certain similar receptor, and they all have the same effect. Well, not the same effect, but similar effect. I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's beautiful that this is how we work. And I think that if humans did more drugs, we'd be a lot smarter. And I know that sounds crazy because we've been taught that drugs make us stupid. No, the drugs that make us stupid are the ones that they promote. Like crack, cocaine, meth, heroin, fentanyl. If you remove all of those drugs from humanity completely, and you replace them with psilocybin mushrooms, ketamine, LSD, DMT, cannabis, like, watch reality change. Make alcohol illegal and replace alcohol with psilocybin mushrooms, and watch how much smarter the fucking world gets. Why are we all stupid? Why are humans still dumb monkeys that do not get what's going on? Because they're not using the correct drugs. They're using the wrong drugs, which fucks their mind up, or they're using no drugs, which keeps them childlike. Without drugs, you are childlike, because children don't use drugs now, do they? No. That's what keeps them in the childlike mind state. What makes people grow up is psychedelics. Look at people who have done psychedelics over years and look at people who have not. It's not that the people who have done psychedelics are better. They're more self-analyzing. They're looking at their own behavior more. They're looking at the way they speak. They're looking at what they listen to. They're looking at what they watch. They're looking at the friends they have more. They're looking at spirituality more. They're paying attention to more of maybe God exists more. Maybe they're more just happy to be alive. They're just more grateful and thankful to be alive. Like, it's the same thing with Christians. I mean, same thing with religious people, right? Religious people are just more grateful to be alive. Why? Because they believe in God and they also believe in the afterlife. So they believe there's something after this, or if they don't do good, they're going to hell. And whether that's a good or bad mentality, it's just that's what helps them get through reality. And I'm just saying that drugs are what help most people get through reality. You most likely drink coffee, you drink soda, maybe you smoke cigarettes, maybe you drink alcohol, maybe you do mushrooms, maybe you smoke weed, maybe you take kratom, maybe you I don't know, maybe you eat a bunch of bananas and fruits and vegetables all day long. Because let me tell you, those bananas, those fruits, they contain drugs as well. You can say that, no, they contain amino acids, but L-theanine is an amino acid, and that has a psychoactive effect. 5-HTP is an amino acid, and that has a psychoactive effect. I'm just saying that it doesn't matter if it's an amino acid, a body hormone, alkaloid, flavonoid, terpene, alcohol extracted or water extracted, molecules are molecules, right? And even some things like gold and platinum at the monoatomic level have psychoactive effects as well, right? Meditation has a psychoactive effect as well. Frequencies have a psychoactive effect as well. And I think all of these are drugs because that's what we truly are, is just a machine, an organic machine that uses drugs to help perceive the world. And I hate the word drug because it's like uh, it's tricking you to think that it's a certain thing. We think drugs are bad because we think of drugs like crack and all that other dumb shit. What we need to start realizing is that we are the drug. We are. And we got to stop running away from drugs and we got to start going towards the right drugs. Instead of being scared and saying drugs are bad, no, figure out which drugs are actually bad and which drugs are actually not. It's as simple as that.